So I know it's been a little while since I made both just a video in general and I guess one of these types of top 10 videos. I think the last one I did was on my top 20 favorite characters in anime and manga, and before that it was on my top 5 favorite arcs in manga. But since it is a new year, I decided why not, instead of making an updated video on any of those previous videos, why not just tackle on something a little different? And so that's why today we're going to be talking about and I guess counting down my top 10 favorite protagonists in both anime and manga. Just an amalgamation of both because I consider both to be relatively the same thing when it comes to a series and its characters. And let's be honest, when you start to consume a lot of the mediums, choosing something like a top 10 list for your favorite protagonists starts to become quite hard. And some of these may seem quite obvious from what I've stated in the past, but who knows? Maybe some of these characters might surprise a few of you. And also to mention, like I do in any of these types of list videos or just top 10 videos in general, these are my personal favorite protagonists. And do I think some of them are the best? Well, to some degree, of course, because that's just my opinion. But that doesn't mean going to war in the comment section is the best thing to do. Instead, drop your top 10 favorite protagonists in the comment section below and let me know if we have any similarities in favorites. But I think with all that being said, make sure to do the usuals: like, comment, turn on the bell notifications, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And with that, let's just jump straight into my top 10 favorite anime/manga protagonist. Starting with number 10, we have a character that I've been pushing for quite a while now, and that is Mash Burndead from Mashle, Magic, and Muscles. For almost 2 years now, I've been reading this series week to week, and being able to experience a character like Mash in that fashion can really brighten my day. There's really not some super deep and thoughtful analysis I can give to this character, rather, I just simply enjoy him to levels that make me truly find enjoyment in reading manga. Mash as a character, to put it simply, is, well, simple. You pretty much get what you expect out of him from the first chapter. And that's not to say he doesn't grow as a protagonist along with his series, but his very nonchalant personality and effect to be able to make most scenes he's in the manga comedic and just simply badass is very appealing to me, and I'm sure as the manga progresses, things are subject to change, but for now, he's for sure worthy of that 10th spot on my list. Alright, so at number 9, we have none other than my favorite Joestar, Jotaro Kujo, with the exception of still not reading both parts 7 and 8 because I know people will get on me for that. But Jotaro was honestly the first protagonist to truly stick out to me when first originally watching and reading the series of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And some might say, what about Joseph and his super energetic and amusing personality? Or maybe even Jonathan with his super heroic and kind personality. I mean, I found this side to Jotaro though that honestly would need its own analysis video on its own, but instead of looking at Jotaro as what people perceive him to be as just this super strong, quiet, and some would say boring character, I saw much more than that. And it's quite hard to really put into words what at least I mean right now by that. But I mean, kind of how I see him is just this man who doesn't really do too much, but the way he perceives things and just people in general, especially the ones close to him, is far more caring and empathetic than I think a lot of people make him out to be. But it's nothing to blame for because his actions do for the majority say otherwise. But other than that, that's my little take on Jotaro and why he ranks number 9 on my list. Moving on to number 8 though is Senku Ishigami from Dr. Stone, a character from a video that's still in the works, but I know plenty of you are wondering where that video is at, and don't worry, it's a pretty decent sized project with a lot of voices in it, so it'll be out any other video from now. But speaking more on Senku, Senku has been a character that I've grown insanely attached to over these past few months, ever since I initially caught up to the manga, and typically it takes me quite a while to grow attached to a main character, but with Senku, it just happened in such a short amount of time, and usually I lean more towards side characters, but because of the appeal with Senku, I think it's the exact opposite. I think unlike any other protagonist, instead of gaining a ton of guidance from others around him, Senku is already established as one of the ones who guides and mentors the ones around him, leading for a very different but unique and amazing route for a shonen protagonist. And for one, it just makes for all the more of a better sequence with Senku is the one being outmatched, and going past that just makes for better interactions with not only the rest of the cast but for himself as well. And there's for sure a lot more to his character, but we'll save that for that specific Dr. Stone video for the near future. But with that, that's just a couple reasons why Senku ranks number 8 on my list. Coming in at number 7 though, we have none other than Dr. Kenzo Tenma from the series Monster. And it actually surprises me that I haven't made just a standalone video on Monster yet, considering it is one of my absolute favorite series of all time. But Tenma, although I see him as being this outshine character compared to someone like Johan in the series, but as a protagonist, Tenma is quite a tricky one with his indecisive thoughts and complications that make him human. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I enjoy his character to such a high demand. There's certain traits about him that I can reflect on and view for myself, along with his decision-making process that continues to get more complicated as the story progresses. And I feel like out of everyone on this list, well, maybe not everyone, but I think out of a lot of these characters on my list, Tenma is probably the one I can see a lot of similarities to in myself, and that's just mainly the reason why I truly enjoy his character, because whenever it comes to a relation with a character, I think that just makes the choice of them be one of your favorites a whole lot easier. Now at the number 6 spot is Thorfinn from Vinland Saga, and without a doubt, Thorfinn has been a character I've liked ever since the very start of the series. And when reading the manga and knowing after the prologue where the story would be heading, it is just a story filled with growth and change for Thorfinn. It's honestly something that thrives within not many stories and a huge concept for a character I want to adapt to if I ever personally write my own story one day. I think Thorfinn's character, when you lay all your cards out and look at where he started from to where we are now currently in the manga, is an incredible stretch of time that only proves to the reader the change and growth in a person is open to anyone, even when you're at your lowest. And I can see why sometimes people don't necessarily enjoy early Thorfinn, but I just see it as part of his story, and when starting from rock bottom, it's only up from there as a person and as an individual. Overall though, Vinland Saga is an amazing series, and I think when it comes time for the second season of the anime to come out, it's gonna start seriously making a name for itself because of not only just how amazing the arc is, but how amazing Thorfinn is. Next up though is our future Pirate King Monkey D. Luffy from none other than One Piece. Of course I had to throw Luffy on here. I mean, it was really just a matter of where, and I've really never thought of Luffy as my favorite protagonist, but I decided to drop him at the number 5 spot because I do think that Luffy is an amazing protagonist, and he may not be as deep as some others on here, but I think just after everything within One Piece that has led up to where we are now in Wano, the moments shared with Luffy and of course the rest of the cast are very hard to match. I mean, One Piece is my favorite series of all time, so of course having the main protagonist on this list is like a given. And you know, to be honest, I never really like to think of Luffy too much of just how he is as a character. Rather, I like to just have fun experiencing his journey and what he does in the story. And that to me can honestly pass up any character that people want to debate is better than one another, because enjoyment is enjoyment. And if you like that character, no one can really tell you otherwise. But with that, that's why Luffy is ranking at number 5 on my list. But at my number 4 spot is a character that is the exact opposite from the last. Onodera Punpun from Oyasumi Punpun, or Goodnight Punpun. Now, it's hard to really describe why I'm so fond of this character. I'm sure for those of you who have read the series, you probably are right there with me if you have him to a high degree like I do. The story is just something that's really hard to put into words, rather it speaks from the heart, and that's how I perceive Punpun in a way. He speaks from the heart and sometimes gets confused like all of us. It's kind of what makes us human. He's a character that makes us the readers reflect on our own emotions and mental state of mind. And if you wanted to, you could really look more in depth on it and realize the thought process not only between Punpun and the readers, but the mangaka Inoue Asano himself. And just because Punpun is a fictional character within a fictional story, you really still start to feel as if you know Asano to a certain extent. And of course, not just within Punpun, but any other character he writes for himself. Everyone writes a little about themselves within their stories, but with Punpun, I feel as if it's just one of his most connecting characters, not only just with himself, but with the readers as well. But that's just a little bit about why I have Punpun at number 4 on my list. So at number 3 though, I decided to take a deeper dive into my top 3, and I was pretty positive on the next 2, but after taking some time to sit back and think about this 3rd spot, I ended up going with everyone's favorite volleyball protagonist, Shoyo Hinata from Haikyuu. So pretty much I've always enjoyed the cast of Haikyuu. I think overall it definitely has one of the best casts for a shonen manga, and Hinata plays a huge role in that, being of course the main protagonist. I think he's just another one of those characters that I can truly resonate with on a personal level, and also admire to some degree. And I generally strive for Hinata's passion and outgoing personality, the type of personality where there's always something to make light of even in the most stressful moments. Almost always ready for a new challenge, and not just for the improvement of himself, but for the others around him to not only grow as a team, but honestly as a collective player of the sport. And this goes for literally anyone, whether playing for the same team or not. Hinata, to put it simply, just puts a smile on my face, and every day I strive to be more like him because of his ambitions and goals, and that's why he's simply deserving of the number 3 spot on my list. Now, moving on to the final 2 spots. At number 2 is the Black Swordsman himself, Guts, from everyone's favorite dark fantasy, Berserk. So after reading Berserk for the first time last year, I felt like this series was everything I wanted within a fantasy world and just as a character for Guts. And some of my all-time favorite pieces of media are revolved around a fantasy-centric type of world. But as for Guts' character, I feel as if though enough time has passed for me to fully appreciate him in full prior to another reread. Not to mention, with these last few chapters of the series, it's been even more like a token of gratitude towards not only his character, but the whole cast. Guts, I would have to say, is if the longevity was there for him like it is for the character at the number 1 spot on my list, would probably be, well, not probably, kind of debatably, in the discussion for my top 1 favorite character. But as it stands, I mean, there's really not much else for me to say about Guts. I think anyone who has read Berserk to its entirety knows what kind of character he is, and that should more say enough to why is which I have him at the number 2 spot on my list. And finally, I don't think this should come to a surprise to anyone, especially if you are familiar with the channel, but at number 1, we have none other than not only my favorite protagonist of all time, but my all-time favorite anime/manga character, Eren Yeager. And I'll probably always say this, the growth I've had with this character and just the connection that has been built up over the years is just unmatched. I'm sure most of you know you all have that one character that no matter what will always be your number 1, just based merely off that special connection that is almost nearly impossible to describe. And people always like to bring up the fact that this character was destroyed by the ending of the manga, but I won't really get into that just in case we have anime onlys watching the video. But quite frankly, I just don't think there could be anything that changes my opinion nor my connection with his character. He's someone I've grown up with and was also from the very first manga I've read, being obviously Attack on Titan. So you could say it's a bit biased on nostalgia, but I think it's a lot more than that. I think that the writing towards this character is debatably the best I've ever seen in any type of media I've consumed. The way the story flows with this character and always calls back to the beginning of the story in full circle is absolutely insane. And realistically, even if people agree to disagree towards this character, that's completely fine with me. But for what it's worth, I've been through a lot with this character, and over the years, to put it simply, I don't think the bond I have with this character will ever come close with anyone else, mainly because of the longevity, but it's why he is and probably will always be my favorite protagonist of all time. Regardless of everything though, I hope you all enjoyed this video. It truly does feel great to be back after kind of what feels like forever. Videos will continue to be pushed out probably on a weekly basis. I said it earlier on my community tab, but there's a few projects I have in the works right now, so hopefully I can fit those into my schedule and show you what a great start to the year this is going to be. But that's going to be it for this video, so if you did enjoy, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and don't forget to turn on the bell notifications. That way you never miss out on another one of your favorite anime and or manga videos. With that, everyone, my Twitter is at Augie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.